that already went. Would you tell us, what made you think that this story was the one that you wanted to share?
Well, it's my story.
But I'm sure you have many stories. Why this one?
Well, because it's the essence of my soul's journey that I wanted to share.
Okay, appreciate that. Well, take it away.
Well, yeah, wonderful to see all your beautiful, loving faces. It's been such a delight being here at Sunrise Ranch over these 8 years that we've been loved and nurtured and supported by this community on our soul's journey. And what I'm wearing here today is some eagles. In an ayahuasca journey, I was looking for a name, and a voice came to me and it said, "Your name is Eagle Woman. It is your job to fly very high and report back all that you see." And that's what I am, is a reporter of what I see and what I know. And I'm sharing tonight my journey. And what I have come to realize is that we each have a soul's journey, and that we're here to bring a gift to the party. And that this soul's journey has many twists and turns to it, and that each of those twists and turns takes us further into sharing our gift of what we promised to bring. And as a teenager, I was looking for the missing pieces of our paradigm. And this has been my story. And it's like, okay, why was I asking that question? Well, it must have been that I came on earth to ask that question. Because my culture never worked for me. As a young person, I cooperated to the best of my ability without becoming a radical. I just sort of subtly didn't cooperate. And I was just knowing that my culture was not serving the human heart and the human spirit, and went looking for the missing pieces. And actually, early on, I sort of had an epiphany with Florence Nightingale. I heard about her and the love that she carried. And I saw the love in the human heart and our ability to love in extraordinary ways. And that really changed my life, because I'm like, why aren't we all doing that? And so I went looking for the missing pieces of our paradigm. And I took up with an Austrian Olympic champion skier when I was 19, because he was from another culture, and he embodied another way of being, very disciplined, and just another way of being from my upbringing. And I went to Europe looking for the missing pieces, and I saw the same thinking, that our culture had come from Europe. And when I came back from Europe, I was in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I picked up a book of Native American poetry. And I saw then that there were 500 Indian nations who had keys to an expanded reality, to contact with the oneness and sacredness of all life, is how I put it, and to keys that would open our hearts to a connection to all that is. And that was in the 70s, and I just kept that with me, that knowing. And then when I had my first child, I just knew I had to expose my children to this native way of knowing. And I was in Santa Fe. I had started the Santa Fe catalog, and I was in Santa Fe twice a year, and there were many native people there in Santa Fe who were sharing their ways, and I would take my children there to experience those stories and those ways. And we were on the outside looking in at that time, because we were just going and listening. But then in the 90s, actually in the 80s, I had my body shut down, and I had 3 little kids, and I thought I was dying. And it sent me on a journey into alternative medicine. I went the allopathic route, and I just didn't like the answers they were giving me. And it led me into the alternative medicine ways, and ultimately to a shamanic healer in Santa Fe. And I went to him, and he did whatever he did, and he said, within 3 months you'll have some idea of what went on here. And my life started changing. My watches started stopping and starting on time, and all manner of things. And I was sent to the Hopi Indian Reservation, and I spent extensive time with the Hopi, and just came to see that they were carrying these keys to the future of humanity, and all the native people, and were carrying this. And then in the 90s, visionary native elders started coming into my life, because the answers you get depend on the questions you ask. And somehow my soul's journey was to ask this question: what are the missing pieces of our paradigm? And what I saw through these visionary elders and experienced through them was that they were holding keys to the true nature of the universe. I mean, I flipped a switch, and I got it. That when they have the giveaway, they don't hoard, they don't save, they give away. And for me, that became what's up for humanity. And actually, I came from a family of philanthropists who gave away the family fortune to the people of Maine in the form of mountains, mountains and parks and all manner of things. So that could have been what sent me on this journey, is, okay, what were they resonating to? Why weren't they hoarding their money and passing it along? And I discovered through the native people this giveaway. And so what I know now is that's what's up. Okay? So all this billionaire hoarding stuff is just temporary, and it's all in our hearts to give away. Once we shift our frequency into the frequency that these native people have been living in and keeping for us, that we get into this higher frequency where there's more abundance than we can fathom. And Jesus showed us the way with the loaves and the fishes. Showed us what it's like in that higher frequency. So, and with his ability to heal, all that is just a way of being in a higher frequency that the native people have been in contact with for millennia and holding for us now for this time. And it's coming time now where we're really connecting with the indigenous people, because it resonates to our own hearts. We carry it within us, that knowing and that direct connection to the divine. So that's my story, and it brought me here to Sunrise Ranch. That frequency brought both Andrew and I here in that resonance of that frequency of what the EDL is carrying, what the purpose of Sunrise Ranch is, to awaken that heart and spirit in all people. So it's a delight, been a delight to be here, and we are transitioning out of the community as community members. I think you all are aware that this is actually our last couple of days as community members in our old relationship that has been such a nurturing time for us. And just know that each of you has contributed so beautifully and wonderfully to the furtherance of our work in the world, which resonates with the EDL work. And so there are many paths to the top of the mountain, and we have our path of trusting a conscious, loving universe and moving into that frequency that the earth is moving into, so that we can all align with our hearts and spirits and take that leap into that new earth, that way of being that we say is out beyond right doing and wrong doing, and victim and perpetrator. In the native way, everything has a purpose. And when the elders said that, I'm like, okay, Everything has a purpose. If everything has a purpose, then we're in that field the Rumi talks about, beyond right doing and wrongdoing. And that's the huge leap for humanity at this time, is to go to that place where we know that everything has a purpose, that we are loved by a conscious, loving, abundant universe. So, thank you very much, and I hope I've touched on all the aspects of what I wanted to share today.
Thank you, Connie, so much. Yes, please, give it a applause. Your life is so interesting because you go from secular to the indigenous knowledge, and you recognize that they truly have these keys that they can share and upgrade and really teach us from the original people's perspective, which to me personally, it is the right perspective of sharing and giving and simply, being with the planet in such a particular way that allows the planet, this relationship with the planet that is just so deep, with the natural world. So I'm curious, really quickly, if you have, was there one type of ceremony or one type of medicine or one type of knowledge that you honed in and you said, wow, I really relate to that? Or was it just broad? You mentioned 500 different key knowledge pieces, but...
Well, I said 500 Indian nations have keys.
Uh-huh.
They're not 500 keys, and what it just was from experiencing them, how they put their words together. The flying ones, the two-leggeds, and the communication. They had two-way conversations with rocks. Okay, so just what's capable, and what I see and know is that technology is actually taking us to that place that's beyond the limits of our minds, and not just artificial intelligence, but technology itself. I mean, the cell phone. Call me on my cell. Okay? Soon we're going to be talking telepathically, and they're proving that with the telepathy tapes. I don't know if any of you are aware of the telepathy tapes of autistic children communicating telepathically. So I saw all this through the native ways of relating to the cosmos. Okay, they all say we come from the stars. Well, guess what? The star people are hanging out real close by here, waiting for us to get into the frequency where we meet in our hearts with them. And it's truly imminent. I don't know how many of you are conscious of that, but the native connection to the cosmos, not just the earth, but to the cosmos, is extraordinary and coming. It's all within us and our ability to connect with our heart and the rest of creation.
Got it. I'm curious, really briefly, what happens when we connect to all that? What does the world look like?
Well, there's talk of a new earth. We're moving into, from my perspective, we're moving into light bodies, we're moving into another, well, the earth, they speak of the earth splitting into two, whether it's a dimensional thing, where it's just the third dimension and the fifth dimension, and where we just don't have any contact anymore with people in a different dimension. So it feels like another earth, or, who knows? It's going to be two earths, who knows? But yeah, it's a completely different reality. We with our Trust Frequency book, our 10 assumptions for a new paradigm, moving into a higher frequency, it's a completely new ballgame. It's not fixing what's wrong with this one. It's a completely new. The laws are expanded. There's more beauty, balance, joy, freedom, and abundance than we can fathom in this little box that we've been in a lower frequency. You see, we've been in this low frequency, and all of our systems and behaviors have resulted from the information that we've gleaned in that frequency. So all of humanity has been doing really crummy things to each other. The red, the yellow, the black, the white. you know, they're demonizing the white man, but guess what? If you look at all cultures, we've been doing really crummy things to each other in the lower frequency. Even the native people who've known all this heartfelt connection, they were influenced too. And so us too. Look at the mystics of you know, all people have had their mystics and their knowing, but the systems and the behaviors have resulted in this from this lower frequency, and now we're rising into a higher frequency where there's more information. The quantum healing, you know, the attunement, what Sunrise Ranch has been doing forever, that miraculous healing is our way, our natural way of being. So who knows? But it certainly is emerging now with the extraterrestrials waiting for us, and our own abilities as we connect with our hearts and a higher way of seeing and being.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.